So, I have had a very crazy experience with the PlayStation Portal. If you have been followers of the channel since day one, you know that I've had very mixed feelings about the Portal ever since it was even announced. I was one of the people that was all backbone, why even get a PlayStation Portal? What's the point of spending $100 more? To eventually coming to actually get a Portal in my hands and appreciating the craftsmanship of it and the comfortability of it and the DualSense features, to now just kind of being in a weird space with it. So I'd love to tell you why, and let's just get into it in this video. If you're new here, my name is Arnell, the comic book gamer, and if you are a fan of PlayStation Portal videos or just content about gaming handhelds in general, you came to the right place. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this. So, like I said in the beginning of the video, when the PlayStation Portal was announced, I felt like it was just this overpriced piece of tech from Sony directly that they could just kind of charge a higher amount for something that you could get with a more basic experience on something like the Backbone or really any other phone controller. But after having it in my hands and actually playing with it for several months and dozens of gaming sessions later, well, my opinion has completely changed from when I first heard about the Portal. So I want to talk about that in this video and treat it as more of a long-term review of the PlayStation Portal. All right, so what has it been like living with the Portal? Well, let's talk about the comfort and the overall ergonomics of it. I have mixed feelings about it. Overall, it's a very comfortable handheld. It is honestly probably the most comfortable handheld by far to be able to play, especially for long gaming sessions. The fact that it's literally just a screen in the middle of a DualSense controller is fantastic. So you have the DualSense ergonomics, which in my opinion, is the best controller. When the DualSense was announced, I was definitely a hater at first because the DualShock 4 was my favorite controller of all time. And the DualSense has quickly won me over. So having a DualSense controller with a screen slapped in the middle of it, which is basically what the Portal is really awesome. It's very comfortable and easy to hold in the hand for a long period of time. The fact that this is a Wi-Fi only device for cloud streaming or remote playing means that there's not a whole lot of heft with processors, hard drives, solid SSDs and things like that going on inside the hardware itself. It's very lightweight. It's literally like holding a tablet, like an iPad, with a DualSense on either side of the screen. So it's very comfortable, very lightweight, and just really ergonomic to hold, especially for longer gaming sessions. While I love the Steam Deck is fantastic. It is extremely comfortable to hold in the hands. The weight of it, which I'm not complaining about it, but the weight of it is something that you're probably not going to want to hold for a very long time. I'm talking hours and hours of gaming. Now, for myself, I'm not the kind of gamer to just sit down and play a game for multiple hours at a time. The most I can do a game is about an hour to an hour and a half, but actually, around that hour and a half mark is when the Steam Deck just kind of starts to feel a bit uncomfortable. I'm kind of doing that hand shuffle to kind of reconfigure it and make it feel a little bit less bulky than what it is. And I don't have to do that at all with the Portal. So that is something that I really do appreciate, that I think that they nailed with the design here. Now, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me because just the overall look of it just doesn't sit right in my head. It doesn't compute well. So I love the comfort of it. It does feel extremely comfortable in the hands. But when I'm not holding it, I'm extremely scared of the DualSense handles just snapping off if it gets caught on something, or if I'm just walking around and I drop it or something like that. I feel like it's not as sturdy of a device as an all-in-one design that you would find in something like the Steam Deck or other PC handhelds, or even like the Logitech G Cloud, which this is a direct competitor to. Now, speaking of some of these other handhelds out there, I will say that the PlayStation Portal is absolutely a luxury handheld. It is a luxury device. This is an accessory for your PlayStation 5, and I'll touch on that a little bit more in a second, but generally speaking, this is just an accessory. It's just something to go along with your PS5, whereas some of the other handhelds, like a G Cloud, if we're talking about a direct competitor, or something that has dedicated offline gaming, like the Steam Deck or an Asus ROG Ally or some of the other handhelds that are out there, those actually can do things, a lot more things that the Portal just can't do. So the Portal is solely focused on either remote playing your gameplay from your PS5 to the Portal, or cloud streaming from the cloud. That's all that it can do. And cloud streaming is something that I do want to touch on here. So with the massive, 4.0 update that was several months ago at this point, the portal is now completely different than what it was when it originally launched. When it originally launched, I can definitely understand the backlash that people had because it was just a remote player. It couldn't do anything else other than just play what was physically playing on your PS5 and just casting it remotely to your hands. Now, with the cloud streaming aspect of it, it does make a very big difference in that you don't even have to have a PS5 to be able to play on the cloud. Now, the library of games that you can do cloud gaming is definitely limited, and they haven't really done a whole lot to expand it ever since the cloud gaming rollout originally happened. So that is something that is sorely lacking, especially when you look at something like Xbox Cloud Gaming that since the get-go has gone all in hundreds and hundreds of games that are available on cloud gaming. Almost anything that is on Game Pass can be played on cloud gaming. Not everything, but almost everything. And unfortunately, Xbox has had such a head start on that PlayStation and Sony are just really playing a big game of catch up. And so, yeah, the library that you can have for cloud gaming is way less than a fraction of what you can get on Xbox Cloud Gaming. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is the portal itself. And the portal itself being the cloud gaming device now for PlayStation and Sony means that people that that can't afford a PS5 or people that just don't want to have a PS5, maybe their lifestyle just doesn't call for actual dedicated console gaming. And so now there are a growing number of people, I mean, it's not a massive amount, but there's a growing number of people that only use the portal to play PlayStation games, which is very interesting. Now, again, there's not really a push to have day one PlayStation, Sony games on the cloud gaming service. So there is that. You're kind of playing some of the older games. They're still fantastic games, but there are some of the older games that just aren't really talked about as much or, kept up with as much as like newer games. So that is something to keep in mind, that the support for cloud gaming is far less than what you would get with just actually having a PS5 and using this as an accessory with that. So I wouldn't try to get the PlayStation Portal as the only device and just only rely on cloud gaming, unless all of the games on the cloud gaming service, which aren't a crazy amount, all speak to you, then yeah, by all means, definitely go for it. Now, before I get into one of my biggest gripes, really my biggest gripe with the PlayStation Portal, I want to invite you to please hit the subscribe button down below, especially if you're liking this video and you like this kind of content where I'm just giving it to you real and just with my raw opinions. Then make sure you subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this on either the Portal or other gaming handhelds. I love talking about all of this stuff, and I am known for kind of going off on tangents and just being a little bit long-winded with my opinions. So if this kind of vibe is your thing, then please make sure you subscribe, drop a like down below as well. Lets me know that you want to see more PlayStation Portal content like this. And yeah, let's just get right back into it. Okay, so my biggest issue with the PlayStation Portal is the fact that there is still no Bluetooth support or the functionality with being able to do anything other than just charging it with the USB-C connector. So the fact that there's no Bluetooth support means that there's literally no, antenna in there, at least from what I understand, that allows for a Bluetooth connection. The whole idea of this from Sony is that they didn't want to, they wanted to give you the most optimized gaming experience. They didn't want you to, use cheaper headsets that could introduce latency, and then now the latency from the remote play service or cloud gaming, maybe they already had that in mind at the time. The latency from the visual aspect of it with latency from audio going through wireless earbuds or wireless headsets. They just didn't want to have a whole latency party going on. And so they kind of limited it and went with a more proprietary option, which is the PlayStation Link technology, which is really only used on like two headphones, the Pulse Elite Explorer and the Pulse Elite headset. Or maybe it's just Pulse Explorer. I think it's just Pulse Explorer earbuds and then the Pulse Elite headset. But you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, the fact that they went with that, I can applaud them for trying to optimize the user experience, already knowing that there is going to be latency with the receiving signal of the game coming to the portal. And so they wanted to kind of optimize that to make it to where you're not having a bad experience. I can appreciate the thought, the effort of that, but what I don't appreciate is the fact that I just don't have the option. I don't have the ability to decide for myself if I want to use higher end earbuds, gaming earbuds that have virtually no latency, especially with the USB-C dongles that you can get with some of these earbuds now. I mean, there are earbuds like the Middle Rabbit SW5, which I've done a review on. They're like $30, and they have a USB-C dongle that I can plug right into like my Steam Deck when I'm playing mobile and have a lag-free experience with the audio. Now, maybe there is some lag, of like a millisecond or two or something like that. I don't know the exact science off the top of my head, but it is virtually like not noticeable to me at all. And so the fact that I can't even do that with some cheaper earbuds that have a good dongle like that, or more expensive earbuds like my Edifier Hecate GX05, the naming is just, not a good idea there, but the headsets themselves are fantastic. Or over-ear headsets like the Corsair HS55 that I have, or just different ones. I don't have the option to use wireless earbuds at all. I just can't. Now I can use 3.5 millimeter, auxiliary connections like that, and I can use IEMs for the best wired experience with audio. But it's just frustrating that I just don't have that option. And what's even more frustrating is that with the USB-C port that's on the back that's used for charging, if they would have just let us, I understand the Bluetooth would need an actual Bluetooth antenna, something that's physically in there to allow for Bluetooth connections. I can understand that. Maybe they didn't want to do that from the get-go, and they can't just all of a sudden start putting Bluetooth antennas in their devices now, unless it's like a big mid-cycle refresh or something like that. So I can understand a physical aspect of that, but like the USB-C port that's on the back, that's already there, they could have, from the get-go, just allowed that to not do just charging. They could have allowed us to be able to use a dongle, to be able to, actually use USB-C wireless audio that way, instead of, trying to jump through hoops of creating a proprietary PlayStation Link technology, which is great. I mean, I do love the Pulse Elite headsets. I haven't tried the Pulse Explorer earbuds yet, but I do hear really good things about those. So I'm not knocking their performance, but it's just a solution to a problem that didn't need to be solved. They could have just used the USB-C port that was already there to allow for wireless dongles. Yeah, I've spent enough time talking about this, but it is just frustrating that there's just no support for that. Now, there is third-party supports for a USB-C adapter that you can plug into the back that also loops into the 3.5 millimeter connection. So that way you're getting the power from the USB-C port to power the adapter, and then the audio is going through the auxiliary 3.5 millimeter connection. So that is nice that there is a third-party option for that. I'll have the best one that I can find linked down below if you want to check that out for yourself. But still, it's just this like dongle that's just hanging on the back of your PlayStation Portal that you also have to set up every single time, or you can't use it if you're trying to charge your Portal as well, because you can't do both things at the same time. So it's just frustrating. At this point, I'm just using my IEMs from Zgot, which are really comfortable. I really do like them, but having wired earbuds just aren't the best in all situations, and so it would be nice to just have that flexibility to use wireless earbuds or a wireless headset. So while my view on the Portal is not perfect, I will say that I do really enjoy it. And sort of the weird space that I'm in now is I'm not even sure if I want to keep the Portal. I want to hear from you down below if I should, because since getting the Portal and making videos about it and talking about remote play and all that kind of stuff, I've even ranked what are the best ways to do PlayStation remote play. The Portal is still a fantastic device, but now there's so much overlap in all of the devices that I have. I have the Logitech G Cloud that can really run circles around this for not too much more money. Again, if you're trying to buy the G Cloud at retail price, you're doing something wrong, because that retail price is insane. But I can also do remote play on my Steam Deck, which I'm using my Steam Deck way more often because of the installed offline PC gaming aspect of it, plus the functionality of being able to do everything else: PlayStation Remote Play, Xbox Game Pass for cloud gaming, all that other extra kind of stuff. So the Portal has kind of just been collecting dust for the most part, because I have so many other ways to play remote play that the Portal, while it's the only place I can get that DualSense feature, that functionality, it's just not enough for me to keep coming back to it constantly unless I were doing super long gaming sessions consistently. So that's kind of my challenge. I want to know from you if you think I should keep the Portal. I'll be honest, I'm probably going to keep it, but it is just kind of frustrating, some of the little, nuances about it that just haven't been fixed, or, some implementations with like the audio, like I was talking about. But at the end of the day, it's still a fantastic device. And I feel kind of bad that I'm just not using it as much as I should, especially with all the other options that I have. So again, I want to hear from you down below if you think I should keep it, and if you want my thoughts on the PlayStation Portal a little bit more, maybe you want to see how it stacks up with a bunch of different metrics of how well this does with remote play, definitely check out this video right here, or check out my latest video right here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.